like Mark Phillips had always said that wisdom outthinks a criminal mind every time, because with wisdom we have soul, we have the depth, we have so much intuition, we got so much capacity, so much weaved into it. And criminal minds are just flat thinking. Well, so is artificial intelligence. It's just
Mm,
flat thinking.
mm.
So wisdom outthinks artificial intelligence too. But in order to have that wisdom, we have to have our free thought, free will, soul expression. And that soul expression carries our discernment, our compassion, our ability to access the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. So we need our humanity. No
Yeah.
wonder it's under attack, because AI can't get anywhere unless we're flat thinking like they are. And the only way to make us flat thinking is to remove us from the essence of our humanity, who we are, and why we're really here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Starseed Speak. I am here with my honored guest, Cathy O'Brien. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on. And I'm so glad to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, so deep honor to sit with you today. We met several weeks back at a roundtable hosted by Sasha Stone for the Lazarus Initiative, speaking to child trafficking and things related to that. I was just going to read a bit of your bio for people who may not be familiar with your story. I think most people are, but for the record, here we have Cathy has been speaking out for over 35 years on her experience in MK Ultra mind control and healing from it. Knowledge is our defense against mind control, and Cathy's experience on a White House Pentagon level empowers her insight into far-reaching effects of mind control on society. Yeah, and what you can do to reclaim, protect, and expand your free thought. As well, I'm going to give a shout out to Cathy's book, Transformation of America, but some of my audience has read that. That is TRANCE formation, trance, is the first documented autobiography of a victim of government mind control. Cathy is a healed and vocal survivor of the CIA's MK Ultra Project Monarch operation, and tracing her path from child porn and recruitment into the program to serving as a top-level intelligence agent and White House sex slave. Transformation of America is a definitive eyewitness account of government corruption that implicates some of the most prominent figures in U.S. politics. No small story there. So, like I said, it's such an honor to be with you. Um, just pausing. Yeah, I'm pausing. And your story has always been so redolent for me, as coming from the background that I do. Child porn has touched that
Yeah.
so much. And I wanted to ask you just off the bat, like, at what point in your journey with all this, so long ago in the past, did you realize that what had become normalized, all the systemic abuse, when did you recognize that that wasn't normal?
Well, after 30 years in the CIA's MK Ultra mind control project on a White House Pentagon level, I saw how corrupt everything was. I saw it so much so in all the details and roots of corruption that I didn't know good people existed in the world anymore. By the time Mark Phillips lifted my daughter and me out of the Washington, D.C. swamp back in 1988.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he handed me keys to my own mind. He'd been working the highest levels of intelligence, mind sciences to preserve the sanctity of free thought. So he knew all about mind control and that we have an ability to heal. But that information has been kept from the people for generations now and buried under national security. It's our birthright information. It's our knowledge that's our defense against mind control, and it's our the way our brains work when trauma happens. And so when people realize the components of mind control, we can't be manipulated anymore by these global puppet masters. So I got quite a view into the extent of the corruption while I was immersed in it. But by the time my daughter was medically kidnapped by Child Protective Services, after a childhood of MK Ultra horrible victimization and a year of peace and freedom with Mark and me in Alaska, then she was thrust into that so-called Child Protective Services. So I was healing from within myself, which means it opens neuron pathways in the brain so that compartmentalized memory can't be triggered anymore. So I was speaking out in 1990 on the subject, if you can imagine.
Yeah, so many years ago. I mean, you're the front runner of all of this, you know.
Well, people had no point of reference for the information. They were so asleep already. That was when I saw what the effects of mass mind control were, and what I saw what social engineering had done. But it also showed me the goodness of humanity, because they couldn't even wrap their minds around what I was saying. And it was like they're so pure and they're so good, they don't even know this evil exists.
Yeah.
How can they not see it? Because mind control has clouded people's visions. So I got quite a multi-level education into the pervasiveness of the abuse and the expanse of mind control on the global population.
Yes, yes, you do have. So you've spent, I mean, your life has been a self-study of this topic. And I feel like it's one of the, I don't know. I mean, do you feel like it's one of the things that you came here to help this world undo, you know, in the end?
Obviously, I'm still here. I survived the
You're still here,
impossible.
Kathy.
I
Yes.
know. So I am aligned with the divine within, living the love I am, and I'm going to keep speaking out until everyone wakes up, because ultimately, the mind control agenda is a spiritual warfare.
It is absolutely 100%. Thank you for saying that. And, you know, when we speak to your very earliest beginnings, you know, being groomed for Project Monarch, I would say, did that begin at the very inception of your life? Or is that how
Yes.
you, yeah, yeah.
Yes, because Monarch is a multi-generational mind control program, because it had been found in the Hitler-Himmler research that that after 3 generations, any belief system, knowledge base, or abuse base becomes autogenic in the brain. It's actually passed down generationally. So they're wanting this mind control effort has been sneaking in ever since Project Paperclip, when we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the U.S. in the wake of World War II. With them came this formula for mind control, and it was buried under national security right from the get-go. 1947 National Security Act kept it secret, but the Monarch, there's many sub-projects of MK Ultra, but Monarch is the one that really has been used on the global population, and was definitely being used on me. So in so many ways, that's what made me targeted. I was born into it. My father sold me into it by 1960 in Muskegon, Michigan, because his multi-generational abuse. He was sexually abused and ritually abused. My mother was sexually abused and trafficked to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. And I was being sexually abused from infancy. So my father's abuse extended into child pornography and trafficking me to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. So this has been a part of my life all along. That trafficking to the Masonic Lodge was where the local politicians and law enforcement hung out, but also where blackmail videos were being made. You know, we hear about Epstein Island, the Diddy tapes, and all that. That's been going on my whole life. They've been using blackmail because these criminal perpetrators don't trust each other either. So they hold each other by the blackmail, so to speak. So the volumes of blackmail, you know, they've just been
Yeah.
around forever.
I have said, you know, in my videos too, speaking to child porn and my experiences within that, the hands of also family and extended family, my godfather and so on, that it's the quickest way to co-opt an individual in a deep state is to film them having sex with a child. It's a blackmail operation through and through. And so to your story, your father, do I understand this correctly, that your dad was kind of let off the hook from prosecution when he was discovered producing porn with you, and then sold you as sort of chattel into the program as a result of that to save his own self in a way. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, it is, because the local politician that I was trafficked to was Gerald Ford. And Gerald Ford told my father he could receive immunity from prosecution if he sold me in the project. So our courts were corrupted all the way back then, when all they had to do is invoke national security
right.
on any case, and they could allow it to continue. So the proliferation of pedophilia has been allowed to go on. And Gerald Ford, of course, went on to become the unelected president of the United States. And as his political career escalated, so too did my victimization in MK Ultra. So ultimately, that's how I came to be on a White House, Pentagon level,
Yeah,
deep in the swamp among these perpetrators. And why I was targeted was because of the multi-generational aspect.
exactly.
And my whole life was completely saturated with the sexual abuse right from day one,
From the
before I
very
could even think.
beginning. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's why I said at what point, like with my own reference point, there was much going on, so much deviance and depravity that had been normalized. It's like you don't know that it's
yeah,
not normal. That was my opening question to you because it's so
yeah,
in the
yeah.
system that you can't get out of. Yeah.
So did you have knowledge of it when you were very young? Did you have any awareness that it was wrong? Could you tell anything
I think
about
I
it?
was so dissociated that I
Me
didn't
too.
and frozen. I was very frozen and just
Yeah.
for the next terrifying thing to happen. I didn't have conscious thought about a lot of things, I feel, looking back.
Yeah, I didn't even really have a capacity to dread, because that's too forward thinking. But it was like I was always on alert for more to happen, because it always did.
Mhm.
It just never stopped. So to me, it was normal.
Yes.
It didn't resonate right with me. I wish there was a place in the world where people didn't hurt each other, but I still. Um, I had no ability to know that was even part of life.
Yeah. Oh gosh. We're here, which is like kind of a
I
miracle.
know.
I was going to ask you, like, to speak to the kind of generational aspect of this. Was your father, do you feel at the end of the day, was he also kind of had been mind controlled in some way himself, or handled in some way, or, um, how is his trauma informing um, what he did to you, or is that something you?
I think it's like a sliding scale.
Yeah.
And so where anytime there's a childhood abuse, anytime there's that the brain shuts down neuron pathways and represses memory. And as more and more neuron pathways are shut down in the brain from trauma, there's less free thought. So plus he was multi-generational in it. So to him it was normal.
Yeah.
And that the government was condoning it. So I don't believe it was any kind of mind control per se, but I don't think he had a capacity to think beyond his own abuse base, his own life's experiences to know that it was wrong either.
Yeah.
So it starts eroding that. That's what they're looking for in this multi-generational aspect on the whole pedophile agenda.
So true. And
Yeah.
when you said autogenic, is that like self-perpetuating for people in the audience who want to understand that better? What do you mean by autogenic?
Like genetically passed down,
Mhm.
where it's born into us, our brains. It's like when people are when doctors are born into families, then there's doctors and doctors, because you just have a propensity for it, being genetically bred into it. So There is that. And then there's of course, the bloodlines, where they pass that down too, because it's the way our genetics work. It's the way our family history affects, our genetic makeup. But I think ultimately the most important message in all of it is that soul is stronger than genetics, and we can overcome anything
Yes.
and get back to living life the way it was intended to be lived, because this is contrary to our spirit. This is contrary to our
Yes.
soul being.
Yes, yes, such an inversion at a very, very deep level. And you are the perfect person to ask this question to. I mean, when we get back into like the child pornography and the harvest of the innocent, so to say, the death culture around this, why has child porn itself played such a big role in proliferating the what we could call as a new world order? Why was that a go-to?
I think because so many people have been affected now. Go back to Project Paperclip again, all the way back to the wake of World War II, when we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists. One of the Project Paperclip, I invite everybody research it for themselves, was Walt Disney. Walt Disney has been embedding subliminals in cartoons from the get-go to promote pedophilia subliminally. So people have been conditioned for generations in so many ways, not just Disney, but that was a major one from the onset, to condition people to it. Because, again, there's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child
Yeah.
prior to age 5 while their brain is still forming. It creates a compliant society. And
Yes.
ultimately, this globalist agenda is a slave society agenda. They need everybody compliant. They need us dumbed down. They need us to do what we're told. And they figured, oh, sexually abuse of children is the easiest way. That is not a good thing for our genetic makeup. It's dumbing us down at such a rapid rate and making us compliant that it's making it more difficult for people to actually stand up against it these days. It's not about sex. It's not about a sexual preference or a perversion, even. It's a control mechanism, and it's all about control. So, but people have been led to believe, it's something else for so long that they can't think beyond what they've been told.
Hmm. Yeah, this bears out in my experience, my observations so much. Thank you so much for saying that so, elegantly. And I have heard, the late Robert David Steele speaking
Yeah.
within the context of the Tribunal for Natural Justice alongside Sasha Stone and so on, that the smuggling of drugs, guns, cash, gold, and small children is the reason we have thousands of military bases. Does that bear out at all for you and what you experienced? I mean, is that something you can speak to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the wars that are fought are always for something way other than anything we're told. So, um, we had 911 to traumatize the nation and lead us into a war. And we went into Afghanistan. It was all about taking over the poppy fields and the heroin industry. It was all about the opioids, and look at the epidemic we've got now. But there's always something more to it. Then the military bases are used accordingly, and it's so many military, NASA, and DARPA installations that I was taken for MK Ultra mind control programming.
Hmm. Exactly. The military has got such a
Hmm.
hand in this. And when I watched your the trance documentary from 2022 that you featured in, I didn't realize that your life had also been so touched by Michael Aquino.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and I it was triggering for me because I
Oh,
was with him too, and I was like, wow, I really have a
yeah.
vault of stuff that is hard for me to touch after all these years of working with things. It's still tough to there's places that are hard for me to go in my memory fields that I don't want to journey into. Anyway, back to Akina, what I was going to say was that we can see the flagrant embedment of somebody he was the director of psychological operations. He was head of the Temple of Set, but psyops for the military at the same
Yeah,
time. For people who don't know that, I mean, there's complete enmeshment of the occult and the dark arts, as we might call them, um, all kinds of ritual abuse that has been used as a technology by the military. So, yeah.
absolutely. And, look at the Presidio daycare scandal, because Michael Aquino, again, was involved in the sexual abuse of children because he was for anything that perpetuated mind control. That was
Yes.
what he was all about. And it had been found in Himmler research that just right up there with sexual abuse of a child is occult ritual abuse,
Yeah.
blood trauma. And when you got the military, you've got blood trauma happening already. You add occultism to that, deliberate occultism, like he was, like his job was to perpetuate, and it created a perfect MK Ultra mind control environment. They didn't want the military to be able to talk about the reality of what wars are all about. They didn't want them to reveal those secrets. So they used mind control to hold them down. Now all our PTSD veterans, they need to be able to heal from within themselves, just as I did, and to be able to heal like you, and to be able to apply that. But the VAs are not providing them with the proper information. Instead, they provide them with pharmaceuticals, dumb them down, and keep them from the memory that they don't want them to
Yeah.
re-access. So Michael Aquino was just a beyond evil aspect of that. By my experience, he didn't worship Satan. He worshiped his own power. He worshiped his ability to have control over other people.
Very much so. Inversions of our deepest nature, which is, and
Yeah,
there's the loving nature that I've heard you also speak so much to. We'll circle back around to that as we move from the sort of nitty gritty of all this into the light as we
yeah,
move through our conversation.
yeah, for sure that.
We will be returning to that. So, breeding programs, what do you understand about breeding programs? What is your takeaway from that through your experiences? Like, breeding people maybe generationally or for babies, or can you help us understand that a little bit?
Well, again, you got that monarch multi-generational effect, and I was used in that capacity until my daughter Kelly was born, and how amazing that miracle is that she of all survived. It's just amazing and beautiful. But the breeding purposes were for creating more MK Ultra mind control slaves, but also back in those years there were a lot of satanic aspects to it of which was a precursor to adrenochrome.
Yes.
And so a lot of the breeders have been used just for that purpose, which is unfathomably dark. I mean, it's just so wicked. But they were definitely doing that too. So the breeder programs are very real for multi-generational reasons, but they were also part of being able to use the breeders for the adrenochrome.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It's like a pause for such, yeah, such
Yeah, really. Why people
sophisticated
need to
insight.
face this truth. Stop it. We got to stop it.
Well, the more of us who are speaking to it, and the more
I
the
know. Yeah.
awakening that's happening here is really shifting things. So, with that, I mean, sort of tying this into a historical perspective, I'm wondering, since this has gone on for so long, the sacrifice of innocence and the death harvest and that, I mean, do you have any sense of what was the beginning point of all of this back in what we call our history? What was the genesis point?
I really don't know where that could have started, but I do know in my experience that the CIA was combining information on the Hitler-Himmler research on MK Ultra mind control with what the Catholics had learned about the effects of trauma on the human mind.
Uh,
So the Jesuits and the CIA alliance was the most powerful form of mind control, trauma-based mind control, because the Catholics had found out through way back in the day with the Spanish Inquisition and the Crusades and all like that, where people were tortured and the burning of the witches and everything else. Well, the spoils of those wars and that violence were the children, and the Catholic orphanages were born. Well, these orphanages, they found that children were highly suggestible and easily led. So that gave them a strong basis for perpetuating the church through mind control of these children. So they would grow up to be the priests. They would grow up to be the pedophile abusers and the, so it was perpetuating that way. And as I say this, I'm not saying all Catholics are bad, because so many are in there trying to clean this mess up. There are so many Archbishop Vigano, even just doing all he can from the inside, I mean, just so amazing people. So I'm not saying they're all bad, but I'm saying, woo, the roots, even the roots of it go way back and is a strong basis for the trauma-based mind control that's being inflicted on society today.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Cathy, thank you. I think when I had asked about this in meditation, like, what is the origin point? I really needed answers to this. And I was told it was when people begin to give their divinity away and look for like God outside of self. I mean, does that make any sense?
Yes. Ultimately, that's what happened with mind control over the population, is that we're conditioned for generations to look outside ourselves to big government, big pharma, big tech, big occult religion to tell us how to live our lives. And it's outside there when we have it all within. When we align with the divine within, we got it all. We've had the answers. We've had the capacity to stand up against them. We've had the defenses, the resiliency of body, mind, and spirit all along. But after so many generations of being let outside ourselves, we forgot to look within. And it's time now, this great awakening that's happening, it's time. Everybody looks within and remembers who they are and why they're here, because this is an evolutionary time we're living.
That's, again, really so beautifully and powerfully stated by you. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So what about, I mean, I've heard you say that information control is a form of mind control, and we have so much of that now. So I think we're getting into an area of the conversation in which we're speaking not just to Monarch programming, but how we're kind of mind controlled through the network of information control and also technology. Is that something you want to speak to? I know that's a big conversation by itself.
Oh, there's so many directions to go with that, but ultimately the suppression of information on our mind-brain function, on our birthright information that's our defense against mind control, has allowed for all of this to go on for so long. And then the suppression of pertinent information, like what really happened with the Kennedy assassination. If people had understood mind control at the time, they would have realized that trauma traumatized the nation. That trauma went on for generations. When you think about it, you say Kennedy assassination, everybody sees the bullet hit the head. It's just because it was ingrained so deeply with the repetitive narrative. And then we were told about the one bullet theory. Of course, Gerald Ford was so heavily involved in all of this. My insight into it is deep, but anyone who questioned that media narrative was then called a conspiracy theorist. That is where that phrase came from, so that we just followed what we were told, and it's easy for people to do when their conscious mind is frozen in fright. If we don't have a conscious mind filter, the subconscious is just taking anything in it's fed, and then the subconscious leads our thoughts later and ultimately our actions. So that was a massive turnaround, not only in our government, but it was a massive turnaround in the takeover of humanity and the erosion of our humanity and separating us from the strength of the human spirit. So, we never got the information on the Kennedy assassination. It's finally coming out now, but until we have that mind control factored into that equation, it's still not going to make the sense that it needs to make, because it was right after that we got That's when they brought in the electronic voting machines.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were rigged since their inception to place key people involved in this globalist agenda in positions of power and influence. So, you know, that was a massive turning point, but that information's been suppressed for so long. So we got the media covering up information. We've lost the information on our defense against mind control. We didn't understand what was happening. And if we had, this world would be a completely different place. That is the effect of the suppression of truth and the censorship of what it has on us.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like, as I'm hearing you in our conversation now, speaking to like how mind control is proliferated, so it's not, we've all been controlled in some way. We're all being
Yeah.
programmed, conditioned in certain directions, even with, I would say, through our cell phones and cell towers and all the,
Yes.
you talk about harmonics and the frequencies. I mean, I see clients who have been remotely targeted and they don't need to have us strapped into a chair or imprisoned in a cage with no food or water in the dark to control us and separate us from ourselves. I mean, this is going on in process now. What is your impression? I had a question in there of where we're going with technology and all this and the AI proliferation as well. I mean, is that something you can speak to?
Well, the effects in the school system, I think, are one really strong example. And we've got kids typing on a keyboard when, in fact, if we put writing by hand back in the school system, we can stop them from being indoctrinated and teach them how to think again instead of what to think. Just with that one simple brain hack of moving a pen.
Yeah.
It's one we all need to use,
Yes.
because it activates the logic critical analysis part of the brain to move the pen. It processes information. It's
Mhm.
consciously seen. You got a whole different dynamic of thought going on right there. But instead, the push towards keeping people with a keyboard or thumbs instead of researching and pen and paper and all that has affected all of society now for generations. So it's had its effect. But at the same time, um, like Mark Phillips had always said, that wisdom outthinks a criminal mind every time, because with wisdom we have soul, we have the depth, we have so much intuition, we got so much capacity, so much weaved into it. And criminal minds are just flat thinking. Well, so is artificial intelligence. It's just
Mm,
flat thinking.
mm,
So wisdom outthinks artificial intelligence too. But in order to have that wisdom, we have to have our free thought, free will, soul expression. And that soul expression carries our discernment, our compassion, our ability to access the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. So we need our humanity. No
yeah.
wonder it's under attack, because AI can't get anywhere unless we're flat thinking like they are. And the only way to make us flat thinking is to remove us from the essence of our humanity, who we are, and why we're really here.
Mm, thank you. That's landing deeply. Everybody who's listening, just pause to reflect on that because, as Cathy says, we have everything we need for the journey to take this planet back and our humanity back. It's within us. So credit that to Cathy today. So getting into like the healing path around all this, the movement toward love and love being, as I've heard you say, such a primary motivator to become well and to keep on in this, what can seem like a pretty deviant place from time to time. You've come so far and you've shown being a way shower for other people to heal and to say maybe, Cathy survived this, I can too. Yeah. I know you speak to the power of journaling, and just there you were mentioning the left right brain connection that goes on when we actually physically hold the implement and write something down ourselves rather than typing. Just speak to that, because I know this comes up in client sessions. We'll get a recommendation from the guides to do some journaling, and there can be a lot of resistance to that. But alternately, what is the power in that?
Well, I think sometimes people are resistant to doing it because they've been told not to, because it's known as the healing tool. That information, the fact that it is a healing tool, was buried under national security. That was something that Mark found, along with the other aspects of our mind-brain function, that had been repressed from society for so long because it is that important. Since it is, the military who are subjected to MK Ultra mind control, special forces, now the kids in school being indoctrinated, all of it is, not to write by hand and do not write. Well, I found it pretty easy to help people get past that by saying, they said, "Oh, I can't write." I said, "Who told you that?" Write it out. Write their name. What did they say? Write what they said. And by then they're writing, and there it goes. They're past it. They deprogrammed the program. They got out of that lock, and they're able to go ahead and proceed with writing, because that is how important that is. Another aspect of that is that when I was under CIA, MK Ultra mind control, I was used throughout the Caribbean and worked cruise ships and stuff, and I needed a cover. So the cover they gave me was a graphologist.
Oh.
And I know, fools. But as a graphologist, I learned that when we're writing, if there's like a tick and an O, it means, oh, there was a heart skip. The heart wasn't doing exactly what it needed to do. And so you can actually see your physical health reflected in it. You can see your mental health. You can see so much reflected in handwriting, because our body is revealed through writing by hand, especially cursive. It's important to get the cursive back in. Well, that little tick, if you just work on it and make sure it rounds, you have to still that heart tick thing in order to make it smooth. And all of a sudden you got mind over body, and you're able to actually physically heal your body. That is how important writing by hand is. We have so much ability that is attached to that it is, it's cruel that it's been taken from humanity. The good news is we can get it back real easy.
We
Pen
can.
and paper.
Yeah,
Easy, it's everywhere.
such simple technology. We want all these bells and whistles to take us back to ourselves, but
Yeah.
it's really one simple thing we can do, like starting now. Wow. It explains to me, whenever I heard you say that, I was like, this is why I have all these boxes of journals that I can't seem to get rid of, that are the heaviest thing I own, because they're my healing tank in there. So, so tell me, I mean, what I was going to ask you a little more soberingly, I think there is a near-death experience. A lot of times with programming and ritual and occult abuse and these things, bringing the victim close to death again and again is kind of a technology, and they're siphoning off certain types of life force energy in the moment before death. We can look at adrenochrome for that and so on. But a flip side of that, did you notice any way that may have informed your spiritual journey or your reflections on self, existence, purpose, and things when we are brought close to death or having a near-death experience?
Absolutely. Because that was like, my spirit was always in a safe, loving space. No matter what happened to my body, my spirit was overviewing it. Like we hear about near-death experiences where they see a thread of light go into the body, and it may be a car accident or something, and they're overlooking the scene. It's kind of along those lines, where the spirit is above. It's in a safe, loving space. It's not reachable. And that's where satanic ritual abuse is such a lie, by saying, oh, we possess the spirit, it's gone, and all that. That's not true. If they can't touch the spirit, they can only stop us from being able to think, to access it ourselves through mind control. So ultimately, that's such a high vibration, their low vibration can't reach it. It's their ultimate fear is the strength of the human spirit and the power of love, because it's too high of a vibration for them. They feed off of negativity, fear, trauma, torture, and literally off the adrenochrome aspect. They that's so low vibration, and it's like this saving grace that we have, where the spirit is in the safe, loving space, is something that we need to realize. It makes it the ultimate power. It makes it the ultimate energy force of the planet. No matter what religious term we might put on it, no matter what we want to call it, it's the essence of our being. It's a alignment with the divine. It's the love that we are. It's the energy force. When I talk about living the love I am, I'm talking about the energy force that it's that. And because I experienced that so often in that safe, loving space, it became like a freeway for me. So now that I'm healed, it's like, why would I not keep that all the time? Because it's the most absolute strength of spirit and the ability to align with the divine. It's the laughable, ha ha, saving grace of humanity. Their darkness can't creep in on our light. It doesn't work that way. Our light just shines and exposes their dark secrets. And pretty soon it's going to dissipate their darkness altogether, because so many of us are shining so bright right now. So to me, as people are looking at the extensiveness of the most lucrative business in the world, the child sex trafficking and the human trafficking, they're overwhelmed by the thought and don't want to deal with it. Well, the news is these children can all heal. They just need to be in a safe, loving space. They need to be where they're secure and away from abuse, and their brains, their minds, their neuron pathways will open back up. They'll start to remember, and they will remember how they were safe all along too. This is like such a huge spiritual evolution that humanity's going through as a result of this. It's the positive from the extreme negative of it all. And if people could look at that like, oh, this is our future, this is our path forward, then it makes them empowered and able to start making the positive necessary change to help these children to open their eyes to the reality, to embrace it, so that we stop this nonsense once and for all.
Mm. Yeah, spoken to, by a truly empowered woman here. Thank you so much, Cathy. It's so inspiring to speak with you. In my healing journey, I worked with a couple of parents from a previous life. They're Indigenous. I just call them mother and father. And mother has always said, we all hold the wound. Like if one of us has experienced darkness, we all kind of collectively are are experiencing that too, and that the trauma is not just yours or not just mine, but belongs to
Mhm.
all of us, and it speaks to our collective journey into healing
Yes.
and all of that. I think we're getting at this, in our conversation, collective healing being needed. We've all been traumatized in some way. I mean, what can you say to encourage others on the path who might be listening to this? Maybe they haven't experienced what we have, and certainly I hope that's true. But what can everyone be doing as far as working towards their own empowerment, healing, or something else?
Yeah, it's everybody needs to wake up and reclaim their free thought and expand their thinking beyond what they've been told, because we've all been manipulated, and the whole world got a taste of mind control, of MK Ultra strategic scientific mind control, when mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on the global population 2020. That was absolutely horrific, but everybody got that just all the more reason everybody everywhere needs to be able to reclaim their free thought, free will, soul expression, to remember who they are, why they're here, realign with the divine within, live the love they are, and we've got this. We've already passed critical mass. We've already got the majority. This great awakening is a very real thing on energetic levels and otherwise, and we're just raising the whole vibration of the planet, empowering people more, and it makes it easier for more and more people to get on board with this. And I encourage them to just apply the easy to self-apply methods that Mark taught me in PTSD Time to Heal.
Yeah.
Everyone everywhere can apply it. And it's not about me. It's about us all. It's a reminder of our birthright information. It's a reminder of our birthright to have defense against mind control. It's our birthright to be able to live the love we are, to embrace nature, to nourish our bodies healthy, to stop following this bioengineered food nonsense and get back to real stuff, nourish our brains. It empowers us on so many levels. So PTSD Time to Heal, it's just a thin little workbook that everybody can use. And even little children can use a version of it by drawing out their memory, drawing out their trauma. If everybody wrote out their fear, what's immobilizing, and added a solution, that would expand their brain even further, because when we have to think of a solution when we're bogged down in darkness, it takes effort and energy, and we have to consciously push that river to make it happen. When we do, we've opened new neuron pathways in the brain.
Yes.
Again, mind control shuts them down. We need to open them up.
Yeah.
That opens them in a whole new way where we can see a clear path forward. So everybody, it's so simple for everyone everywhere to begin this path, or to solidify their path, and then get out in nature, get out in community, talk to each other eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul again. Shut off those devices.
You said so many important things right there in that bit, Cathy. And just to say, too, for people who don't know, Beyond Transformation of America, Cathy has also written the healing book. It's PTSD Time to Heal, including a workbook and other ways you can learn to work with your own trauma, however big or small you may perceive that to be. We all have it. So that's just to clarify your book, it's available on your website, and we'll link that below. But can you speak to also, how when we have been traumatized to the point where we split off and have some kind of dissociative identity disorder, we have alters, is there anything particular that you used as a resource to overcome and deprogram all of that and to come back into unity within yourself?
Yes, I deprogrammed the program first, and that made all the difference in the world and made me realize the illusion of power. It's like realizing how a magic trick works. It loses its spell, it breaks the spell. So that was very helpful. And attaching with nature, loving animals. Animals can show us that so often when we do have the dissociative identity disorder, we've been blasted into primitive parts of our brain while our conscious mind is shut down. Those primitive parts are highly intuitive. They've got telepathy, heightened senses. We feel who's good and who's bad. We get this. We have such a capacity of intuition that is a part of our being that we forgot about for so long. So relying on those is like a space that animals live in, dogs, and it just sweet pets, and they remind us of the purity of that, the unconditional love. So that's another just beautiful little healing tool that we can have for ourselves, is reconnecting with nature, feeling the earth underneath our feet, and the sun on our shoulders, and the wind in our hair, to be able to feel things again. All of those are part of that healing process that bring us fully together, and everything comes together by aligning with the divine. It all ultimately, that's the core, the gravitation of all of it that pulls everything together, is that our humanity, the divinity within.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for again speaking to something potent yet apparently simple on the surface, that connection to nature and feeling, like you said, when you said feeling the breeze, feeling the earth, feeling the sensate qualities of this embodiment. I mean, as you said that, I went, for so many years I couldn't feel anything. You could see
Right.
me in a beautiful place, and I was just frozen. I was just waiting for the next trauma. So it is, as you reminded us, that act of coming into presence with self and one's environment, and that it can be a deep pleasure in those things, is actually incredibly healing. Just wanted to reiterate that. It's, again, these simple tools that we have at our disposal that are part of our birthright indeed. Wow. And
Yeah.
you must have found too that your intuition, coming from the family background where you were, and maybe waiting for the next shoe to fall, or waiting for the next moment of what might happen. I mean, we become very acutely sensitive to the moves of others and what might be called psychic ability. Was that something you noticed in your childhood journey?
Well, the visual acuity, even that, where the eyes are so wide open, and you can see, the trauma in a lot of people because their eyes are so wide open, and it's like having eyes in the back of the head to be able to see the trauma before it comes. When we start paying attention to society around us, and we see people with, the clown hair and clown makeup and a zillion tattoos and piercings and all the metal. They're saying, "I don't see myself. I don't feel myself." They're so far removed from any of um, their humanity that they're just screaming out for help visually, trying to get people to see what's happening. We need to understand that rather than snap judge people, to understand what their journey might be, and that maybe they need a little kindness and a little bit of compassion. And when they heal, they're going to be able to have that full access to the intuitions and aspects too. So I see a lot of survivors think because it was used bad, or the CIA studied it, or whatever, they feel like it's bad. It's a bad thing. If it can be manipulated from the outside, what we can do driving it from within with strength of spirit is just absolutely amazing what we're capable of, what our brains are capable of. So we don't need to be afraid of those aspects just because they were used for bad. We
Yes.
can have those and cherish them, use them ourselves, and keep um, our own senses and of awareness to help keep us safe. It becomes a heightened defense mechanism that allows for the conditioned adrenal over response to settle down and rely on our natural spiritual aspect capabilities. And it's very healing on so many levels to be able to accept the beauty of that and let it override the the trauma on guard,
Yes.
hyper vigilant
Hypervigilance, that
aspect.
elevated nervous system state. Yeah,
Yeah,
like you said. And thank you for speaking to that. I know I see a lot of clients who are probably listening who have learned not to trust their intuition because it
yeah,
was co-opted in some way and used maybe for bad things. And
yeah.
you're inspiring us all to harness that, because it's part of our birthright. For people who are listening who maybe, we're all holding the trauma, as I said, and as we have said here, and maybe sometimes it's hard to feel that loving vibration within ourselves. Is there a way we can come back down into a softer place within that you can recommend to folks listening? How do we start?
Yes, one interesting one that I think people forget in dealing with trauma is that we can pick up that pen and write something positive. What was the best thing we ever experienced? What was the best time we ever had in nature? Or if you want to draw a beautiful place that would you'd love to be. If we can just start training our brains to even go in a positive direction,
Yeah.
that's helpful. When my daughter was taken into custody by the so-called Child Protective Services, she experienced so much so much horrific abuse in that system. And they told her past wasn't real. And she would say, well, your beliefs don't change reality, and she was just really cool all along, just amazing, amazing what she went through. But she still was having a hard time. We were um, monitored. We couldn't hardly talk to each other except telepathically, and connect on that level and stuff. But I told her to go within. When she was getting bombarded so hard, go within and find that little light inside of her. And she said, I'm without a within. And I said, look deeper. You see that little light in there? And she goes, well, yeah. I said, shine it brighter and brighter and brighter. And that really helped her through a whole lot of difficulty. Perceptual as it is, it's a reminder of the beauty that is within us, that we do have that spark in us. If we didn't have that spark in us, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't even be alive, but we got that spark. We can shine it bright. And it's a start. And a start is all we need.
Thank you so much. Just beautiful energy here in this conversation. We may start these talks in some darkness, but we certainly come around to higher light and personal sovereignty and the liberation of humanity. Those are no small things. Thank you for leading the way. Oh, Cathy. So people can find you. Do you on your website, Transformation? We'll link Cathy below. You can buy both of her books there. And also, do you have public speaking coming up? Any engagements where we can see you live?
Yes, right now they can check the events on my website too and see where I'm going to be speaking. I've got a lot more that I'm posting up there right now. Got a lot of blog posts. PTSD Time to Heal is secured on my website, so everybody can have it. It's better in hard copy form, so you get away from devices, but at least it's available in ebook where people can have it right now. Download it for free. It's secured there, so you have to zero out the cost. Most people do, and just get it that way and start applying it. So everybody has that. And also my other book, Access Denied for Reasons of National Security, is there. It's a testament to the human spirit and the power of love. And it tells Mark's and my journey through the corrupted system to help my daughter. So it shows where all the roots of corruption are planted for anyone who's got children that have been thrust into the corrupted system. This will be very, very helpful to them. It'll be very helpful in dismantling the criminal mess too. So there's a lot of information available there, but above all, it's all about healing. It's all about our personal journeys, and it's all about healing the nation, the world, and being part of this great awakening, spiritual evolution that is going on right now.
Thank you, Cathy. Let us know how you're inspired by all this in the comments below. Share the video. Cathy's such an inspiration in all that she has to share. Yes, and certainly check out her books. If you want to do transformative one-on-one work, you can book a session with me. Those links are below for inner child healing and integration. And more. You can also find me at the Super Soldier Activation Conference live in Orlando in October. All those links are below. Cathy O'Brien, I'm so glad you're in this realm, inspiring so many of us to be our best. Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Oh, please stop that. just to mention this briefly, I have a mother and father from a previous lifetime, Indigenous mother and father, and I just call them simply mother and father. They've been with me every day for about 2.5 years. They were my parents from a previous lifetime with the Crow people. And they've helped me heal so much. They've done soul retrieval work for me. They helped me journey to get parts back. And that's actually ongoing. Like even today, I was working with them this morning. And their love is so beautifully unconditional.